Have you ever scrolled through your phone, seen a story of profound suffering somewhere in the world, felt a brief, sharp pang of something, and then just kept scrolling? Have you ever been in a conversation, heard a friend confess a deep struggle, a real vulnerability, and you've offered the perfect, well-articulated, empathetic-sounding advice, but on the drive home, you feel a strange emptiness, a sense of having gone through the motions, of having performed empathy rather than having truly connected? I want you to be honest with yourself for a moment. Think about the last time you saw need. Not on a screen, but right in front of you. A colleague overwhelmed and struggling. A family member lost in their own quiet crisis. A stranger on the street who was clearly invisible to everyone else. And I want you to ask yourself a question that might feel uncomfortable. A question we're going to explore today. Who did you leave half dead on the side of the road? That question sounds brutal, doesn't it? It's meant to, because it's the question at the heart of one of the most famous stories ever told. A story so familiar we think we know it. A story we've wrapped in the gauze of childhood lessons and simple morality, the parable of the Good Samaritan. But I'm here to suggest that this isn't just a story about being nice. This is a profound psychological map. It's a story about the brutal, inconvenient, and absolutely necessary work of becoming a whole human being. And it holds a powerful key to one of the most pervasive yet unspoken struggles of our generation: the quiet paralysis of performative righteousness. We are the generation that has perfected the art of the correct opinion. We have the right infographics, the right hashtags, the right language for social justice. We know what to say. We know how to signal our virtue. We have built beautiful, elaborate, socially acceptable masks to navigate the world. In Jungian psychology, this mask has a name: the persona. The persona is not inherently bad. It's the face we present to the world to function in society. It's our professional self, our good friend self, our woke citizen self. The problem isn't having a persona. The problem is when we become the persona, when the mask fuses to the skin, when our entire sense of self-worth becomes dependent on maintaining this curated, flawless public identity. This creates a terrifying gap, a gap between the person we profess to be online and in public, and the person we actually are in the messy, inconvenient moments of real life. It's the gap between knowing the right thing and doing the hard thing. And living in that gap, that chasm between knowing and doing, is a source of deep, corrosive anxiety. It's the feeling of being a fraud in your own life. This is the exact spiritual and psychological crisis that a man, a scholar of the law, brings to Jesus in the story. This isn't just some random guy. He's a professional knower of the right things. His entire identity is built on his mastery of the law. He stands up to test Jesus, and he asks the biggest question there is: what must I do to inherit eternal life? Which is really just an ancient way of asking, how do I live a meaningful life? How do I know I'm a good person? And Jesus, like a master therapist, turns the question back on him. What is written in the law? How do you read it? The scholar nails it. He gives the perfect A+ answer. You shall love the Lord, your God, with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. It's a beautiful answer. It's the right answer. Jesus affirms him. You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. But then comes the most revealing sentence in the whole story. But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" He wished to justify himself. He wasn't seeking understanding. He was seeking a loophole. He was looking for a definition, a boundary, a rule that would allow him to check the love my neighbor box without it costing him anything. He wanted to keep his persona intact. He wanted to be a good person in theory. He is the embodiment of our modern anxiety. The anxiety of knowing everything and feeling nothing. The need to be seen as compassionate, without having to do the actual messy work of compassion. And so Jesus tells him a story designed not to answer his question, but to shatter the foundation it was built on. A man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Let's reframe this. The road from Jerusalem to Jericho was a notoriously dangerous path, a steep, winding descent. In ancient symbolism, Jerusalem often represents the high, holy city, the seat of the conscious ego, the intellect, the persona. Jericho, one of the lowest cities on earth, can be seen as a symbol of the unconscious, the instinctual, the messy reality of life. The journey from one to the other is the journey of life itself, and it is fraught with peril. It's a journey we all take. And on this journey, the man, let's call him Everyman, is stripped, beaten, and left for dead. This isn't just a physical assault, it's a psychological one. He is stripped of his identity, his resources, his dignity. He is reduced to pure, raw, vulnerable need. This beaten man on the side of the road is a symbol for the parts of our own humanity and the humanity of others that we neglect, ignore, and leave for dead in our frantic effort to maintain our perfect personas. Now, who comes down the road first? A priest. The absolute pinnacle of the religious persona. His entire job is to be the mediator between God and man. If anyone should know what to do, it's him. He sees the beaten man, and he crosses to the other side of the road and passes by. Why? The story doesn't say he's evil. It doesn't say he's a bad man. The most terrifying and relatable interpretation is that he is simply trapped by his persona. Perhaps he thought, if I touch him, I'll become ritually unclean, and I won't be able to perform my duties at the temple. His role, his identity, his idea of goodness became more important than the actual act of goodness itself. He sacrificed a suffering human being on the altar of his own righteousness. He chose his persona over his soul. Next comes a Levite, another religious insider, an assistant to the priests. He does the exact same thing. He sees the man, and he walks on by. Again, we can imagine his internal monologue. This is a dangerous road. It could be a trap. It's not my responsibility. Someone else, someone more qualified, will surely handle it. He intellectualizes. He rationalizes. He justifies. He does exactly what the scholar who asked the question was trying to do. He uses his mind to avoid the call of his heart. Both the priest and the Levite are us. They are us when we see a homeless person and speed up, telling ourselves we don't have any cash, when the real reason is we don't want to engage with the messy reality of their pain. They are us when we hear of a friend's divorce and send a text saying, "Thinking of you." Because picking up the phone and sitting in their raw grief is just too inconvenient, too awkward. We let the performance of concern substitute for the presence of compassion. Then, someone else comes down the road. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. We have to understand how shocking this would have been to the original audience. Samaritans were the ultimate outsiders. They were heretics. They were racially and religiously despised by the Jews of Jesus' time. To the scholar, a Samaritan wasn't just a stranger. He was the enemy. He was the other. This is where the story pivots from a moral lesson to a profound psychological one. The Samaritan is a symbol of the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is everything in ourselves that we have repressed, denied, and disowned. It's the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable, the dark side we don't want to look at. But the shadow is not just evil. It can also contain our most vital, positive, and undeveloped potentials. It can hold our creativity, our spontaneity, our raw, instinctual life force. It can hold our capacity for embodied compassion. For the scholar, the priest, and the Levite, their conscious personas are all about being good, clean, and righteous. Therefore, everything they see as unclean, other, or lesser than, like the Samaritan, gets pushed into their personal and collective shadow. But in doing so, they've also repressed the very quality the Samaritan embodies: spontaneous, non-transactional, embodied compassion. He possesses their positive shadow. The Samaritan doesn't think. He doesn't calculate. He acts. He is moved with compassion. It's a gut-level, instinctual response. He goes to the beaten man, pours oil and wine on his wounds, the basic first aid of the day, and bandages them. He doesn't just patch him up and leave. He puts the man on his own animal, sacrificing his own comfort. He takes him to an inn and cares for him overnight. And the next day, he gives the innkeeper 2 silver coins, the equivalent of 2 full days' wages, and says the most incredible thing: "Take care of him, and if you spend more than this, I will repay you when I come back." This isn't just help. This is radical, inconvenient, costly, all-in compassion. This is the integration of the shadow. The Samaritan, the rejected other, is the one who performs the act of true wholeness. He is the one who is truly neighborly. He is the one who is truly living a meaningful life. At the end of the story, Jesus turns to the scholar, the man trapped in his own intellectual and spiritual superiority complex, and asks him a devastatingly simple question. Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? The scholar can't even bring himself to say the word Samaritan. He replies, "The one who showed him mercy." He knows the answer, but admitting it would mean shattering his entire worldview. It would mean admitting that the person he despises, the person who represents everything he has rejected, is actually closer to God, closer to wholeness than he is. And Jesus delivers the final, inescapable command. Not go and think likewise. Not go and have the correct opinion about this. He says, go and do likewise. This is the call to individuation. Individuation is the Jungian term for the lifelong process of becoming your true self, of moving beyond the persona, confronting and integrating the shadow, and becoming a whole, indivisible person. It is the journey from Jerusalem to Jericho. It is the terrifying, necessary work of stopping on the side of the road. The parable is telling us that true spiritual and psychological maturity is not found in the purity of our ideas, but in the messiness of our actions. It is found in our willingness to have our carefully constructed personas shattered by the raw needs of another. It's found in our courage to embrace the other, the Samaritan out there, and the Samaritan within us. So I ask you again, who did you leave half dead on the side of the road? Maybe it was a person, but maybe, just maybe, it was a part of yourself. Maybe it was your own vulnerability, your own need, your own grief that you deemed too messy to deal with, so you crossed to the other side of the road. Maybe it was your own spontaneous compassion, your own creative spark, your own instinct to connect, that you left beaten and bruised because it didn't fit the persona you were trying to project. The path to a meaningful life, the antidote to the anxiety of performative righteousness, is not to have better opinions. It is to go and do. It is to stop, to kneel, to bind the wounds, to pay the cost, to risk getting your hands dirty. It is to recognize that the beaten man on the road is you, and the despised Samaritan is also you. And wholeness is found when the part of you that is rejected comes to the rescue of the part of you that is broken. That is what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. It is an act of radical psychological integration. Your journey to a more authentic, less anxious life begins the moment you stop asking, "Who is my neighbor?" and start asking, to whom can I be a neighbor? It begins the moment you stop trying to justify yourself and start trying to connect with the world, one messy, inconvenient, compassionate act at a time. Go and do likewise.